Hi there people, welcome to this video. Today we're talking about the mighty FAZZ. Now this is a unit I like very much, and it's a very comfortable unit to use. So let's take a look at its weapons first. The first weapon is the FAZZ double beam rifle, and this rifle is amazing. The hit rate for an uncharged shot is very low comparatively to the damage, and the piercing shot is very good. For the beam saber, it exists. The head-mounted Vulcan is the same in the GBO2 and both versions, so it's very good. Again, 200 meters of range. These shoulder missiles, you only have 6 of them, but they have great build-up stagger, so they're very useful and they're a bit quicker than the other one. These other missiles are okay, they exist. They take 2 to 3 business days to reach their target, but they do very good damage. And of course, the Hyper Mega Cannon, which is the big gun. Now, you might end up a bit disappointed when it comes to it, because it takes quite a bit to charge and you need to aim very carefully. It does do a lot of damage, so that's nice. I think it would be very beneficial if they did something like the Gundam Unit 4. So give it like an uncharged shot. I think that would be very cool. By the way, there is this anti-ballistic armor that I use. It's very good for its cost. It's just 9 medium range slots, and it gives 15 ballistic resistance. So if you're wondering why I use that, it's just to balance out the slots. I like that part very much. Here I have the shortcuts, so in case you're curious for the shortcuts I use. For the skills, you have like the general support skills, high performance radar and all that. You have some space skills and you have shock dampeners. Now this is very important for this unit. I'll talk a bit more about it later though, so let's keep going. Special backup add-on buffer, very good. Large shoulder weapon, special cushioning, very good. Damage control level 3, I will also talk about it a bit later, together with the shock dampeners. Special leg buffer, again, very good, 25% less damage on the legs, a very welcome addition. And an extra 10 to high speed movement, so it's not actually 180, it's 190. There are skills that exist. They're all very good. They don't change the way you play a lot, so I like that in these units. So let's take it to a test. As you can see, like when I fire the uncharged shot, it deals a lot of damage, and if you kneel down and aim, I have almost enough to hit a 100% ranged damage boost, so that's very good. The charged shot though, you just saw hitting 7k damage, which, I mean, it's a 700 unmodded suit, so that's usually not gonna happen, but it's a lot of damage, a lot of base damage and modified damage. The important thing is that it pierces. It not only staggers, but it pierces, and this is very useful. I just showed that you can hit the base with the same shot, so that's why I was aiming for that specific spot. As you can see, you can fire a lot of uncharged shots. And it has this funny animation with the beam saber, so that's nice. The machine gun, the Vulcans, are very good. Again, They deal quite a bit of damage and they build up stagger quite quickly, so that's very welcome. The shoulder missiles, they stagger in 3 hits. I just missed the time. So they stagger in 3 hits and they're quite quick. The back missiles, on the other hand, are painful because they take a lot of time to reach their targets. As you can see, like, all of the missiles, you can fire them while boosting, which is great. And the Vulcans you can also obviously fire while boosting. So it's 3 weapons that you can fire while boosting, and this is huge for self-defense. The shoulder missiles are also very good. They can work as burst damage, and they are quite quicker than the ones on the back. For the big gun, just remember that you can't lie down with it. So if you try to do that, you will get off the charge animation, and that can be very, very bad for you. So keep that in mind. As for some combos, I like to charge the primary weapon, and that's because the charge is very quick. It's just 2 seconds. The increase in damage is not that much, as you could see, like when I was testing. For the same conditions, it was basically just almost 500, I would say, damage difference, which is not actually much. This is almost like a beam magnum. It's very interesting. There are 2 combos I like to use. The first one is the beam rifle to the Vulcans. This is very good, but it's for short range, I would recommend. So if you're in a closed space, you can use the Vulcans to hit the target. The problem is the missiles, they go up first before they go forward. So that can bring a bit of a problem if you are in a place with a low ceiling. That being said, I think it's best to keep talking about it during a match. So I believe this is a very comfortable unit. To me, it's like a comfort food. It's a comfortable MS. The shock dampeners will stop any instant stagger, and the damage control will increase your the amount of build-up stagger you can take. So that's very, very good. I usually charge the beam rifle when I'm sort of alone, but here you can see the second combo I talked about. It's the beam rifle to the missiles on the back. It can deal quite a lot of damage, and the main problem is the fact that they take a lot of time to reach the target. As you can see, I shot through the base with the piercing. That's very, very good if you're interested in doing some out-of-the-box thinking in some like weird place. You can use that to your advantage, and that's very good. The piercing is very useful. As you can see here, I'm in a bit of a pickle, so I can boost away quite comfortably, and that's because of all these stagger resistances. As you can see, I also built for quite a for the max ranged resistances. And that's because most of the damage I'll be taking is from ranged weapons. So I like to max those out. I start to challenge the enemy sniper, and that's because I know I have like these stagger resistances, and the FAZZ is very big. It's very big and very stagger resistant, and that's very good for it to be like a unit that is on the front line and is helping your team advance. The problem with it though is it's very slow. Like, it has 95 walking speed. The boosting speed is okay, I guess, and yes, you're going to see the 600 damage on a Unicorn Gundam. So yeah, that's basically the reason I call this a beam magnum at home. I think if you think the base damage uncharged is for both beams is 3,400, and for charged I believe it increases to 360, which is basically the same thing in the silver bullet suppressor. But this one I think is a bit better because it has a bit more range, and the piercing I think it ends up being a bit more useful than the area effect on the beam magnum. Like, the area effect is pretty good, it can help you a lot, but I think the piercing to me is a bit more valuable. So I come back and I see that we're in a bit of a pickle because we are all in the base and there's one that is outside, but it's okay. So I just it's important to remember that as a support you're basically just the walking big guns for your team, so try to always put up some damage or do what you're meant to do. In the case of the FAZZ, it's a frontline support that can take some aggro from the enemies, and it can deal a lot of damage with its primary, and that's very important. And once again, the piercing comes in very useful. The primary weapon, I would say, is probably the most important thing you should keep in mind with this suit, and that's because you should always be thinking about this weapon. So be careful not to overheat it unless extremely necessary. It's always try to go back to it. I see a lot of people that just change to the back missiles and just use them all at once. I think using them in bursts is a bit better. Mostly because they tend to miss a lot. As I said again, they take like 2 to 3 business days. I've to get to the enemy. I've seen packages arrive quicker. The important thing with the heavy beam cannon, the hyper mega cannon, is that I was pointing inside the tunnel at first, and that's because the light it emits from the tip of the cannon can alert enemies. So I try to do that so that the enemies that are spawning in don't see where I am. This is quite important because once you start charging the beam cannon, you can't move. So that's a very important thing. You need to choose your spot very carefully. I think this is a great like noob trap, because if you're not used to the weapon, you will use it in the wrong moment. So this is best either on the beginning of the match or when the enemy is wiped out and you have some time. So in those situations it's very useful, but knowing when to charge your beam rifle really makes the difference between like a good FAZZ player and a great one. So as you can see, I use some more uncharged shots. When you have your allies with you, I think the uncharged shots are the best because they basically have like the best bang for their buck. They take very little heat from, not very little, but like way less than usual weapons would take for as much damage. And They also fire. You can fire quite quickly, like the first 2 shots, because you don't have to recover too much heat. But when you're alone or in a more, how do I say, like when dealing with the enemies up close, I would recommend charging it. The fact that this suit doesn't have any instant charge, instant stagger weapons is not too much of a big deal, because you have the stagger protection and the charge is just 2 seconds. So I don't think it's too bad of a weapon. I think it's a great primary weapon. So that was it. I had a lot more to talk about, but let's leave it to another moment. And I think I had quite a good performance. So if you like the FAZZ, try to take it for a spin. It's very, very good right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.